Hosted by Ed Steer and Dan Bolter, Life in Digital explores the ever-changing media landscape with today's industry leaders.
So hi there, of course, my name's Dan. I'm a VP North America here for Sphere, and really delighted to welcome you, Rob Webster, of course, onto the Life in Digital podcast. Rob, the founder of Tower Marketing Solutions. So Rob, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Yeah, great to be here, and yeah, what a great event. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, I'm really excited to chat. So let's get stuck in. So Tower Marketing Solutions, of course, founded this business, and I think you're around sort of 6-7 months formally running that. So tell us about that, really, of course. Well, what are you guys all about?
Yeah, so really, it's all about the adoption of AI within marketing. And if I may, I'll give you like a couple of minutes on sort of my history, which will explain how we got here.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
both my parents worked in IT, and actually my mother was also in mathematics. I spent all of my kind of life and career kind of doing maths and IT, and also then somehow landed in the world of marketing. And it's also been about how do we help marketers, how do we help companies adopt some new techniques and technologies. And I've been fascinated by AI for years. Yeah, ran a conference on it over 12 years ago for the first time. Always wanted to run an AI company, but was always stuck by the fact that it was all at the time very much stuck about sort of geeks in sort of sheds, right, doing in basements, kind of doing sort of very geeky things, and it's very hard to kind of have that adapt to the world of marketing, which is both an art and a science. And for me, the real pivot point was the breakthrough of Gen AI, just a couple of years ago, because what that does is it opens up the whole sphere. Now everyone can use AI to help them about their daily lives, and you can use it as a gateway to do some of the really advanced things as well. Um, and yet, even though it's now become so accessible, it's also there's very little training out there for it. There's no manual about how to do it, and I don't think the manual exists yet about how to best to make AI work for marketing. And worst of all, if you ask the tech vendors, they'll obviously be great at selling you products, but maybe not quite so great at going, what's the best way of getting this done? So for those reasons, my love of AI, my kind of my 10,000 hours of working in marketing, I really wanted to kind of go there and kind of found this company to kind of help people adopt this fascinating new space, and hopefully by doing so, get to I think a really great future with AI, well, rather than some of the more nefarious things that maybe you kind of hear about sometimes in the press.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think you're right there. I think it's one of the most talked about topics, if not the most, right, all across the world. And I think you're also right about there is no manual for it. People are still discovering it and its capabilities. So great to hear about obviously how you're trying to address that, I guess. So, but maybe just a bit more detail on that side of it. Could you maybe talk us a bit about obviously Tao and how that maybe enables brands to utilize AI then in marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what we do is we like to work predominantly with advertisers, also with people like retail media companies, and also some publishers. And crucially, we've got to work out what is it we're trying to achieve. Now, first of all, AI can really do three things. It can automate current tasks, things that you do regularly can be done in an automated or partially automated way. You can massively speed up your ability to get things done. By using AI to get that done as part of that automation piece. But not only can it automate things, it can also, I think, raise quality. And it's really important to not just focus on automating stuff because you're going to have that same push on craft. I want to run better ads, use data better, have better writing, send out better emails. And using AI alongside humans, I think you can really kind of raise the bar and do things better. And ultimately, these two things, we call it sort of automation and acceleration, are all about things that people do anyway. So it's how do you work with marketers, look at what they're doing anyway, and make them automated, faster, better. But then the last part is to then open up innovation. Uh, Normally within marketing, things don't happen because there's too much friction. People can't get things done. People have these great ideas, but they can't do it because maybe they haven't got the skills, maybe they haven't got the budget, maybe they haven't got the time or the expertise. And I think AI can really unlock that. Yeah, we can. AI can be your part-time analyst, your part-time data engineer. It can help you turn a concept into an ad quickly, or create a podcast, or create a whole new way of talking to your customers. And that's the really amazing thing, I think, is that once you kind of free up people to use AI. You free up a lot of their time for a lot of the rigmarole, and you open up this eyes to innovation and creativity, which I think is really, really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of concern in the market around AI. Obviously, is it going to replace humans, right? There's a lot of, concern in that respect of it. And I think it's interesting you're talking about there about how it's just not it. It's here to improve, it's here to optimize, it's here to refine. I guess within that, like, what do you really see as the kind of main challenges that the industry does have to address them with AI? Maybe that included.
Well, I look at it kind of what I think of as AI heaven and AI hell.
Sure.
AI hell is people doing high volume, low quality work that requires less people, right? Um, and I think we all experience that in the automated WhatsApps that we get, the automated emails that we get, where someone goes, hey Dan, I can get you 1,000 leads a day, or yeah, do you want double glazing, or whatever the ads might be, right?
Yeah.
So Martin Sorrell says that AI is all about hyper personalization at scale. I think that, yes, that's true, but I don't like the words because I think that sums up this barrage of ads that have your name in it are semi-personalized to you, but actually aren't relevant to you. The phrase I like is
Mm,
relevance at scale.
mm,
And I think an example of that is TikTok. Every TikTok has the most personalized feed of content of any system on the earth, right? And it's
mm,
seamless. You want to see the next video, and it's learning from it. Ads can be the same. Ads and marketing can be the same. That if you're in market to look to buy a car or buy a new watch or whatever it might be, if those ads are relevant to you, they don't feel like ads, and your
mm,
responses will be so much higher. So, but that requires real craft.
mm,
And real craft, I think, is that combination of how can you allow people to really understand human sentiment and behavior, use all of that data, and create lots and lots of really high quality, relevant experiences. So you asked me what
mm,
the dangers are. I think the dangers are that we kind of misunderstand it, and in a whole desire to cut costs, we kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater here and lower that
mm,
quality down. And also, whilst doing so, there can be misuse of data, over targeting, and kind of really lose that trust. So huge, huge dangers there that I really part of the point of founding this company is to go, well, look, how do we do this well in a way that actually makes everyone's careers better, reduces that fear, and allows all people to be more creative and more prosperous moving forward.
Yeah, I really, really like that. And you mentioned in that side as well, like that building of trust. I know that that's a huge area within the AI market. People don't like change, right? So how can marketers then build trust in this new AI driven world? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think one of the big buzzwords, but it's an important one, is authenticity. You know, you don't want to use AI to kind of push out messages that aren't authentic to yourself and your brand. And that also includes being authentic about, honest about how things are created. So that we're not trying to dupe people, but show them that layer of that layer of quality. So I think the first thing there is you need to define your values and who you are and how you want to use AI, and be very, very make sure that you stick to that in all that you do. The next thing is you've got to be aware of what could go wrong. If you overuse data, you're going to upset people in terms of their privacy and how that data is appropriately handled. If AI isn't used carefully, you could end up with even sort of abusive kind of responses from AI, or kind of experiences that aren't appropriate for a variety of reasons. You've got to be aware that those things can happen, and put in safeguards to make sure that they don't. And crucially, you've got to take
Mm,
responsibility for it. Yeah,
mm,
with this extra power that we have, comes a responsibility to use that uh,
mm,
appropriately. And I think it's going to be one of
mm,
the really big dividers of the next few years is that people and companies who don't use this might struggle, but people also that use this and don't use it responsibly
mm,
could also really kind of struggle because I don't think the public will forgive them for some of those challenges.
mm. Yes, you're right. And you're missing the Spider-Man quote there with great power comes great responsibility, right? I thought
Yeah,
you were
I
going to
thought
plug
I thought
that.
I was going to say it, but I thought I can't do that. I can't be quoting Spider-Man here on the podcast. But yeah, it's relevant, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, the capabilities are huge, and I think that we're still trying to figure out, obviously, what those capabilities are, where they extend to. But yeah, how do we control those, right? So, I think it's really interesting, and maybe when it comes to AI, like, are there any sort of in particular, exciting marketing use cases of AI that you could reference or anything you could share?
Yeah, loads. There's a ton. And we need to put them into different categories. So um, I think the first one is around content creation. So almost everybody has played around with getting an AI to write them some content or create them some imagery. Um, and that's just really kind of the tip of the iceberg here. Yeah, the ability for people to be able to sort of create really amazing ads at a fraction of the cost, at much faster than they ever could before, is only going to grow. We're already starting to see AI generated ads, and like some say there's a danger that that kind of removes the element of the creative's craft. I don't agree.
Yeah.
The best people that are using Midjourney, the image based app, are photographers because they know how to frame a shot. If you're going to ask an AI to produce a short video ad for you, you need to have the eye of a director on that to work out how you want the ad to be framed and have that great prompting going on. So I think just on the creative space, there's a huge amount of transformation happening to produce ads that have that real relevance and feel correct for the person that they actually really
Mm,
want to receive, and kind of close that content gap. A
mm,
decade ago, for those that sort of work in the space, you'll know there are probably only like 4 or 5 different ads that you required. Now you need all these different ads for Meta, for Google, for TikTok.
mm,
You probably need different languages if you're a global brand. And the amount of time and effort that required was considerable. And AI can make all that so much more effective. So there's the whole content piece.
mm,
As exciting though, I think is the performance marketing space. Yeah, how do you optimize campaigns better? How do you plan campaigns better? How do you respond to events that much faster? And again, a lot of the major tools like Google and Meta will use AI, but it's also vital for marketers and advertisers to have their own AI to monitor the AI, because what Google is going to do is what's best for itself. What Meta's going to do is what's best for itself. So you need to have an AI that looks under the hood and make sure that everything that's happening is always what's right for you and your company, that you're spending your money correctly.
mm,
And that again opens up huge potential because with these global systems now, successful marketers can use these tools to have such huge influence on what they do. Um, I actually think the world of email and customer relationships is going to really transfer. We shouldn't be
mm,
getting there. There's no excuse for getting these lazy WhatsApps and emails now, because if you run an email program and I'm emailing you, it can remind me things that you've been talking about recently. Remind you that you've launched a podcast. Uh,
mm,
yeah, remind me of what we did last time we met up. Um, and all of that can then become a part of the communication. And
mm,
kind of be that assistant to go, right, hey, when you email Dan, make sure to reference that that time we all met up last November and we did this,
mm,
and kind of help that to build into those
mm.
relationships.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I'll say the whole world of data. Everyone says that data is the new oil, but oftentimes managing data is very hard, and unless you have like advanced skills, it can be very difficult. But I think about if you can build your own work job or your own company's AI, you can put all that crucial data in there, and you don't need to know advanced programming languages to get the data out. You can just ask it questions, going,
Mm,
"Hey, based on last year's data, when are we going to have the most sales next year, or what products might boost?" It won't be right,
mm,
but it starts that whole process going.
mm,
It allows you to then have a dialogue with the AI and make better decisions.
mm, mm,
So so many use cases really, and really it's about trying to anyone's job is a series of small tasks.
mm.
You've got to think, how can each of those tasks be done better by AI? Most of them can be. And then how do we then unlock that benefit across the whole team?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're coming back to the relevance there that you spoke about earlier. I think it absolutely gives you the tools for that. Well, when we're thinking about these use cases, is there anything specific that you and Tao Marketing Solutions have done? Is there a specific case study where you've had a business you've been working with that had a certain challenge that maybe you could share with us?
Yeah, I think I'll think about a few really. I think uh, one business that we're working with is all about media planning and how we can do more advanced media planning. So they have a whole number of different data sets, and it would normally take someone quite senior quite a long time to go through all of those different data sets, understand what's right for a given campaign, and pull out those audiences. They can now pull a first version of that in seconds. They can have the media planner putting their own headspace and knowledge back into that process. And
Mm,
then also that whole forecasting piece. I mean, for those that have worked in the space, producing forecasts was often the bane of people's lives at the start of the year.
mm,
Yeah, the AI can do that for you in seconds, and the number of hours that takes away from off the task is just phenomenal. And
yeah.
we've been doing that across a whole range of companies from sort of retail to gaming to travel.
Yeah, fantastic. Just huge time saving task. Yeah, that's great.
Time
Well,
saving, but also because you can iterate faster, you can
yeah.
actually improve things faster. So in the past, if it was a media plan, you didn't want to change it because it would take you a week. So you kind of
Hmm.
stuck with what you had, right?
Right.
um, Whereas now, if you go, actually, I don't want to do that, I want to change it this way, you can change it much faster, which means there's
Yeah.
there's less cost for a big change. In the past, you'd always dread the idea of someone coming in going, actually, let's rip that up and start again because it would take so much
Hmm.
work. But now you can do that repeatedly until you come up with the best solution, and you're not then
Mm.
afraid of trying to look for a new answer.
Mm. No, for sure. I mean, it's super exciting, and it just frees up your time to maybe more impactful things, right? So I know I love that. So I guess maybe kind of looking ahead then. So obviously, at time of recording, we're earlier to 25. Where do you kind of see the industry evolving this year? What's your opinion there?
Well, I think it's really if we're kind of 2 years into this whole revolution, right? When ChatGPT came through, and what we're going to see is a increase in sophistication.
Mhm.
So many folk now are using AI a bit. Yeah, people are using it a little bit to do research or to write emails or to do bits of their jobs, right? And I'm sure it's the same for you.
Mm,
What I think we're going to see is people learn from each other and just increase down that value scale, right? So we're already now seeing that when we work with um, generic tools like Microsoft Word or Google Docs, the AI is integrated, right? But then
mm,
increasingly, it's going to become part of specialist tools.
mm,
Your ad server or your Google Analytics or any of these tools, your Snowflake will have AI built into it, which means you're going to get that time saving. It means that you're going to be able to do things that you couldn't have done before because maybe you didn't know how to. Um,
mm,
and what we'll then find is that's then going to mushroom into people inventing new ways of doing it and new outputs. They're kind of that kind of explosion of creativity. So, I mean, if you ask people in the industry today, how much are they
mm,
AI as part of a workflow, i.e., part of their job design? Still, the answer is not very much.
mm,
But I think that competitive pressure is going to force that to mushroom very, very quickly. And it's almost like an
mm,
arms race that, once you have one agency or company saying that all of their marketing is AI powered, then it almost becomes a point that everybody has to have it.
mm,
Um, so I really think we're on that sort of that tip of the curve from
mm,
people know it's a great idea, but haven't quite got their
mhm,
head around exactly what it does and why,
mm,
to that kind of moment of enlightenment, and suddenly it stops becoming a nice to have and becomes a requirement. And I do think we're
mm.
really close. Yeah, those that have blends in are already getting such great results from it. Let's be clear,
Yeah.
it's not perfect. Yeah, you ask an AI to build an ad for you, it's not quite right. You ask an AI to build a campaign for you, it's not quite right. However, if you use it as part of a workflow, it still provides a huge improvement in time saving, helping you get from A to B. And therefore, it's those that then build it to a workflow that do well. Also being aware that the AI is also improving at a constant speed. And suddenly, when you ask it to do things that it can't quite do right now, I think we're already months away from it doing it. If now it's 70% right, it's probably going to be 98%
Mm.
right by June. And if you've already built that into your workflow, you're there and ready to get the benefit.
Yeah, I see. And I think you're right. I mean, 6 months ago, I was not using ChatGPT. Now I use it daily. And I think that that would be the same with, most people in the industry, right, as they adopt to it. I'd be interested to get your thoughts. I mean, do you foresee the AI expansion being exponential from this point, or do you see with headwinds in people's adoption or resistance to change, or even our tech limitations, it being more of a steady growth over the next few years?
I think exponential. Look, so first of all, there will be blockages. There will be companies out there that say we can't use it for this reason. There'll be people out there who don't want to lean in because they don't want to. There's that
Mm,
huge amount of inertia around change.
mm,
So there are huge factors that will hold things back. But equally, the power of what it does is such that once you realize it's there, you can't stop it. I'll give you an example. When I'm preparing for a meeting with an expert on something that I'm adjacent to but don't know that well, let's say SEO, for example,
mm,
I'm a 6 out of 10 SEO person.
mm,
But if I spend an hour or 2 hours before the meeting talking to AI, going, right, I think AI is about SEO is about this and AI and SEO is about this. What do you think? And it will then go, oh, that's great, but you missed out this, and oh, don't forget there's this new thing here. And
mm,
suddenly you go into the meeting with more knowledge, but also more confidence that you have the knowledge.
mm,
And I think that almost any important task or thing that you do, people are going to start to think, how can I build AI into that flow? And those
mm,
things I think are going to overpower the sort of the blockages against it. Think about how other revolutionary changes in the past. Think about how the iPhone launched, and everyone got an iPhone, thought it was great, but they didn't really know how to
mm,
use it, right? For the first
mm.
2 years, people like playing weird Star Wars lightsaber games on their phones that didn't achieve any actual value, right? But 2 years later, and suddenly the change was huge because email worked perfectly, maps worked perfectly, iMessages worked perfectly.
Yeah.
And it took 2 or 3 years to go from a great device, a great change, to actual great change in all that we do.
Mm,
And that's why famously the year of the mobile was every year from 2011 to 2015, right? But by the time we'd
mm,
gone through it, by the time we got to like 2015, it was just everywhere. It was the internet.
mm, mm,
And I think we're going to have that same thing now, but even faster, where I think people are going to say that 2025 is the year of AI, also next year and the year after. But by the time we're in
mm.
2027, it will just be everywhere.
It'll be the norm,
Yeah.
right? No, I know, and I hear you there, and I think we've had a couple guests on the podcast talk about like the reality is AI is here, and the quicker you can use that as an asset, and the quicker you can get ahead of it, the better off you'll be. Is it's not going anywhere; it's just going to keep improving and growing. So it's great to hear you being at the forefront of that, and certainly Town Marketing Solutions too for your Orbit clients. So yeah, I really appreciate it, Rob. Well, look, I mean, thank you so much for joining us. Any final thoughts before we finish up from your side?
Well, yeah, I suppose the last thing to say is that all of this great progress doesn't mean that there aren't problems. And
Mm,
I think that the really important thing about the space is the reason we exist is that if you have a challenge, that we're some people can go to get help. And
mm,
all I would say to anybody that's excited by this opportunity, but maybe when they do get stuck, reach out either to us or to other experts in the field to
mm,
to drive it forward because the whole thing about progress, right, is hitting barriers and going past those barriers. And
mm.
yeah, I really think this is going to be a net benefit to all of us, but only if we can all kind of lean together to drive this better world for AI rather than kind of getting stuck in a kind of a grey world where everything's just duplicated, low quality sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you host your own podcast to sort of educate people in that space. So certainly it will direct people there.
Yeah,
Well,
that'd be
well,
great.
thanks for your time, Rob. Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's been great chatting about this and yeah, incredible what work you're doing. So thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Hopefully see you soon.
See you soon.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Life in Digital. If you want to know more about our guest or any of the topics that we covered today, you can find out more in our show notes and on our website.